At some point, you had to believe something. We've reinvented computing as we know it.
What is the
Today we're talking about writing killer scripts. If you want to learn how to make content faster, this is going to be one of the most helpful videos you ever watch. Because the truth is, when it comes to content, most people really struggle with script writing, hooks, and storytelling. And the reason is you don't have a system for converting raw ideas into winning scripts. Now, I've studied thousands of the top creators across every niche, and it turns out they're all using the exact same script writing process to make their videos way faster. It's the same playbook I've personally used to generate billions of views and over 1 million followers. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the whole thing. This is the 4-step blueprint for building a script writing system that will help you make videos 10 times faster. And trust me when I say this, nobody else is giving away this kind of stuff for free. All right, now before I go through the 4-step system, it's really important to understand why people get stuck with script writing and storytelling. It turns out there are 4 major blockers that cause the blank page problem. These 4 things are the reason why script writing feels so difficult. Now here are the 4 script writing blockers: the interestingness blocker, the hook blocker, the storytelling blocker, and the engagement blocker. Each of those blockers corresponds to a question that will pop in your head and make you unsure of what to write. So for the interestingness blocker, the question is, what is actually interesting about this topic or story that I should include? For the hook blocker, the question is, what is the best way to hook the viewer? For the storytelling blocker, the question is, if I am able to hook them, what is the best way to tell the rest of the story to hold their attention the entire time? And for the engagement blocker, the question is, if I'm able to hold their attention the entire time, how can I make sure that after they're done, they engage by liking or sharing the video? Whether you're a creator or a brand, these 4 questions are gonna be on your mind every time you're trying to think through how to tell a story. And when you don't have an answer to any of those questions, that's what holds you up and causes the overthinking. So what I've done is built a script writing system, really a framework that helps you systematically think through each of those questions to come to an answer much faster. So for the rest of this video, I'm gonna break down a bunch of tactical tips for how to get through each of those blockers. And then at the end, I'll walk through my step-by-step script writing process for how I speed run around the blank page problem. All right, let's start with the interestingness blocker. The very first thing to tackle before you actually start writing a script is to figure out what makes the video interesting or compelling. If you're making content, you have to start with this step first. Because if you don't have a set of facts or an angle or a premise that's actually interesting, none of the rest of the script writing process really even matters, because you're gonna be optimizing for a boring concept. So this first part of the process before you actually write the script is to jot down a few bullets about what makes this story interesting to you. Now this brings up a really key question. How do we know which facts or nuggets to grab that will make our version of the story more interesting? In other words, is there a formula for knowing when something is going to be interesting to others? And it turns out there is. I call this the law of interesting. Interestingness comes from shock value. When you're making a video, whether it's entertainment or education based, you want to find key facts or opinions that drive maximum shock. Now, shock value is the distance between what someone already knows about a topic and what you tell them in the video. The greater this distance, the greater the shock, and the more they will hold on to see why that shocking claim might be true. For example, I made a video about a Russian engineer that built a fully functional Iron Man suit in his garage. Now, when I was researching this topic, I came across a clip where the main engineer said that he invented the world's first personal hydrogen reactor, the glowing thing that goes in Iron Man's chest. As soon as I heard that, I thought there's absolutely no way that could be true. How could a random guy in a garage build a hydrogen reactor by himself? And that right there, that curiosity, shocked-based question that pops in your head when you hear something you can't believe, that's what you're going for. My current belief was that there was a 0% chance this guy could have built a hydrogen reactor. His claim was that he did. The distance between those two things is massive. And that distance represents max shock, max interestingness, and I had to stick around and keep watching to figure out if it were true. Now, knowing that, I anchored my video around that detail. and the video got 40 million views in 5 days. So for you, when you're researching a topic or just trying to organize the facts you already have in your head, you want to write down the things that will drive maximum shock based on what you think the viewer knows or doesn't. So here are the tactical steps for doing that research process. This is exactly what I do. I call it idea development. When you research a topic, you want to watch and read everything you can and then assess every fact you hear on a shock score of 1 to 100. Out of 100 people, how many do you think would have heard that thing before or not? If your best guess is about 4 out of 5 people wouldn't have heard it, well then that's going to be a shock score of around 80 out of 100. The goal is to find facts that are true, but also have a maximum shock score. So as you find them, take those facts and write them down as bullets on your script document. And this works for entertainment content, like the Iron Man example, and it also works for all educational content. What do you know to be true about this topic that most people don't? Write those things down. That's where true interestingness lives. So this first step, the gathering of the facts, makes the research process so much faster. Now there's 2 ways you can run this research process to mine for the shocking facts. The first way is that you could do it manually, where you find videos and blogs and you just read all of them on your own and try to parse out the different facts. Or you could use the new sandcastles.ai research tool. And this is exactly what I do. First, I find any reference links or videos about the topic. I go to the scripts tab in Sandcastles, I press new script, I press notes, and then I drop in any of those links or just a broad context about the topic that I want to make. Now Sandcastles will automatically write a V1 script, but I just ignore that for now. Here's where the real sauce is. Go down to the script writing toolbar at the very bottom of the page and click that first button on the left. This is a research report that was created based on the links and context that I put in the notes. But this isn't just a normal research report. It was specifically created to mine for interesting and shocking facts. This report feature is basically a shortcut for finding the most shocking and interesting facts for any context or links that you give. So even if you don't want to write the full script in Sandcastles, which is totally fine, this little research tool that's kind of hidden is actually a super helpful way to curate the shocking facts that you can then use in your manual writing process. So those are the 2 ways you can mine for interesting facts with a high shock score. You can do it manually just by watching all the sources, or you can do it automatically with the Sandcastles research report. Now let's zoom back out. At this point in the script writing process, you now have a doc with 5 to 10 bullets of the most interesting and shocking facts about the topic. And this will help us get past the interestingness blocker, because now we have a process and a system for curating the most interesting parts of the story. Now it's time to actually start writing the script and piecing everything together. So let's move on to step 2. All right, the next most important piece to focus on is the hook blocker. And you guys are gonna love this one. Once you've curated the most interesting aspects of the story, the next question on your mind should be, how do I hook the viewer? Now we all know the hook is the most important part of the script. So is there a formula for writing a winning hook every single time? Of course there is. Now I've analyzed thousands of hooks across every single niche, and it turns out there are 9 proven hook formats that tend to work in every single category. If you're stuck, the easiest way to solve for writing a winning hook is just to use one of these 9 proven formats and not overcomplicate it. All right, so here are the 9 most effective hook formats. You have secret reveal, case study, comparison, question, education, list, contrarian, personal experience, and problem. Those are the 9. Now quickly, let me just go through a 1-line explainer of each of them so that you can use these right after watching this video. No gatekeeping here. But to be honest, I could do a whole video on just those 9 hook formats. So if you want me to do a much deeper dive where I dedicate a whole video to those, break them down, do a ton of examples, comment something like 9 hooks so I know that you guys want that. Okay, here we go. This is the quick breakdown of the 9 proven hook formats. Let's start with secret reveal. The secret reveal hook works best when you have some unknown insight or future implication that the viewer might not know. It teases the feeling that the speaker knows something the viewer doesn't. So for example, Google just released 4 free AI trainings that make it way faster to learn AI. The secret reveal format is great for news coverage, product releases, or tactical tips that have just been uncovered. All right, next is the case study hook. This is number 2. The case study hook works best when you're highlighting a brand, person, or subject that achieved some result in some unexpected way. For example, Alex Hormozy just sold $100 million worth of books in 3 days using this 5-step method. Case study hooks are great for breaking down a rapid explanation for how X subject accomplished Y result in Z method. Most educational creators have a ton of success with case study type hooks. All right, third, we have the comparison hook. The comparison hook is when you instantly compare 2 or more versions of something, so you can illustrate the optimal one versus the suboptimal. For example, what's the difference between a beginner creator versus an experienced one? These are really great for breaking down A versus B scenarios and creating instant contrast between the ideal desired state and the base one. All right, fourth, we have the question hook. The question hook is when you explicitly ask a question to implant the desired curiosity directly in the viewer's mind. So for example, can you bake sourdough bread in under an hour using only household ingredients? The question hook is great for teeing up challenge videos or directly asking a question that is common from your viewer. All right, fifth, we have the education hook. The education hook introduces a step-by-step process for completing a single task, process, or workflow. For example, here's the easiest way to use ChatGPT to create content. Typically, the education hook is the precursor to a tutorial or some kind of playbook. All right, sixth, we have the list hook. The list hook introduces an ordered set of items for accomplishing a pain point or task. For example, these are the 5 best Premiere Pro editing templates that you can use for free. List hooks are best for plainly introducing a rapid-fire list of items. All right, seventh is the contrarian hook. The contrarian hook introduces a bold and contrarian take in the very first sentence as a way of grabbing attention. For example, Jaguar's rebrand is one of the worst design blunders in the history of the world. Contrarian hooks are great when you have a strong take that goes against the grain and you're willing to frame the entire video around it. And this works especially well if that contrarian take drives discussion in the comments. All right, eighth is the personal experience hook. The personal experience hook introduces a personal story or scenario, usually preceding a storytelling type video. For example, when I was in college, I used this sleep technique to only have to sleep 3 hours per night. Personal experience hooks are best when you want to speak in first person and frame up a story from your point of view. And last, but certainly not least, is the problem hook. The problem hook introduces a specific pain point or problem to set up a solution response. For example, if you struggle with acne, this is one obvious solution that will clear it right up. Problem hooks work best when you can agitate a pain point that the viewer is already aware of. Now, of course, not all 9 hooks are going to work in every scenario, but in every scenario, I guarantee 1 or 2 of these will be the best bet of the 9. Now, once you know these are the 9 goated hook templates, the questions then become, how do I know which hook format to use in what scenario? And then, of course, how do I take my chosen hook format and write it so that it works for my topic specifically? Let's tackle both questions. The easiest way to decide which of the 9 hook formats you should use is to study which hook formats are already working for the best performing videos in your niche. Now, typically for every niche, there will be 1 to 2 hook formats that just always crush. And this is because certain topics are better suited for certain hook storytelling than others. So just pick the hook formats that are already working for your niche and remix those. Don't overcomplicate it. Now, the easiest way to figure out which hooks are best performing in your niche is to go to Sandcastles, go to the channels tab and build a watch list of all the top performing accounts, go to the videos tab, filter by that watch list, sort by outlier score top down. Now you've got all the best videos in your space from those accounts right there for you. Click on each individual video to get to the idea detail page, scroll down past the transcript, and boom, right there we have the hook analysis for you. This shows exactly which of the 9 hook types I just walked through is being used on that video. It's automatic. This makes it so easy for you. You don't even need to watch the video. If you just click into 20 or 30 of the top performing videos, there will be a pattern. There always is. Now, if you combine this data-driven pattern matching approach on Sandcastles with common sense, you'll easily be able to figure out which hook formats work best for your topic. Now, the second question is, okay, once I pick the hook format, how do I actually write it and tweak it so that it works for my specific video? And again, there are 2 ways to do this. The manual way is to take the literal word-for-word hook from the outperformer, copy that down, paste it in your doc, switch the words Mad Lib style, and run with that. So the way to do this, go to Sandcastles, click into the video, see the full transcript, copy the hook word for word, and go from there. Again, pretty easy, but that's the manual process. You have to know which words to switch Mad Lib style. The other way, the automatic way, is to again use Sandcastles, but it's a different feature, one that will automatically write all the hook variants for you in one click. So to access this, go back to the scripts tab, go to the script you just made, go all the way down to that script writing toolbar at the bottom, the 3rd button, the one with the key, click that. What you see are all 9 of the hook options written for you for your topic automatically. Now again, you might not want to use the Sandcastles generated version word for word. Take that, copy it, paste it in your doc, and tweak it from there. And I'll say this again, you may not want to use Sandcastles or any AI tool to write the full script end to end because you don't like how it reads. But these little pieces, the research report, the hook writer, these little things help you figure out puzzle pieces to add to your script process to find the answer quicker. Now, as a bonus on hooks, before I move to the next step in this video, I just want to quickly review the 4 hook commandments. Once you write your hook, screen for these 4 things to make sure these are true, and your hooks will perform much better. The 4 commandments for hooks are alignment, speed to value, clarity, and curiosity. For alignment, hooks are actually 3 parts. It's visual hook, spoken hook, and text hook. It's not 1 component, it's actually 3. The visual, spoken, and text hook must be aligned. Whatever you say in the spoken hook has to match what you're showing with the visual and text. Now, the 9 hook formats I just went over, those are obviously the spoken hook. That's what you write on the script, that's what you speak. But you should also be thinking about what visuals and text you should show on screen to complement the words you're saying. Okay, next, when it comes to speed to value, the hook delivery must be fast. 0 delay, 0 fluff. If the viewer only hears 1 sentence and you stop the video there, is it clear what's coming next, or is it up in the air? It must be clear. The third piece, when it comes to clarity, the hook must clarify what the video is going to be about. Again, if the viewer only hears that first sentence, are they clear about what's coming, or is it murky? Do they not understand the words you're saying? It must be clear. And then lastly is curiosity. The hook must open a question in the viewer's mind. This is the curiosity loop concept. When you're reading the hook back and you just read the hook, does it make you want to keep watching, keep reading, or not? So now you have the 9 proven hook formats with a description of when you use each one and the 4 hook commandments, kind of like filters or a checklist that you should run your hook through once it's written. If you want an even deeper dive on hooks, I made 3 other completely free videos that I'll link below. I also recorded a 2-hour in-depth training just on hooks, literally everything I know about hooks, with a 37-page notes guide that everybody who takes the training gets. That's also linked below. If you want to go crazy on hooks, the answer is right there. It's in the description. You don't need to watch anything else. Okay, so at this point in the script process, let's just zoom back out and orient where we are. We've gone through 2 of the 4 steps. First, we curated the 5 to 10 most interesting facts about the story. And second, we've now picked the hook format and written the hook. If you're looking at your script document, you now have the body points and the hook done. Next, we need to figure out how do we piece those body points together to tell a compelling story after the hook. Okay, so the third blocker, remember, is the storytelling blocker. And for this one, you're stuck on this question. If I am able to hook them, how do I tell a story that's compelling enough to hold their attention through the whole thing? And the easiest way to solve the blank page problem of writing the story is to start with a story outline. I call this the story structure. It's the way the story flows after the hook. Now listen, I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff. Just like the hooks, I've analyzed thousands of the top performing videos across every niche, and there's also a proven pattern for story structures. There are 7 winning story structures that tend to work across every niche. And just like hooks, I'm gonna walk through all 7, give you the sauce, and tell you exactly how to use them. If you don't know where to start when it comes to structuring those facts into a story, I would pick one of these 7. So the 7 story structures are this: breakdown, newscaster, case study explainer, listicle, problem solver, tutorial, and educational. Now, just like we did for hooks, let's go through a 2 to 3 sentence explainer of each one. I'll break down when to use it and what hooks to pair with each different storytelling structure. Like I said, nobody gives away this kind of stuff for free. So if you're liking this, you know what to do. All right, the first story structure is the breakdown story structure. And the breakdown story structure is really used to explain any concept in building blocks. Essentially, you're breaking down some complex thing. Now, the outline that you would use for breakdown stories goes like this. First, you have a hook. Then you have some initial context shock. Then you have a block explaining what happened or how it works. Then you have a block for why it matters, and then an outro. It's a 5-block outline. The breakdown story format is best for things like product launches, general development or news, new technology, or analysis-based stories. Now, typically the best hooks to use when you're writing in a breakdown story format would be the secret reveal, the question, the comparison, or the contrarian. Okay, second, we have the newscaster story structure. The newscaster story structure is used to explain a largely factual recounting of an event. Typically not as much opinion, more facts. It's like a journalist. It's kind of like a breakdown, but it has more of a journalistic, fact-based slant. Now, the outline for newscaster stories goes like this. You have hook, you have the full context of the story, you have an optional, extremely short take or analysis section, optional, and then you have an outro. So it's 3 or 4 pieces. And like I said, newscaster stories are typically best for journalism or sharing the news. Now, typically the best hooks to use if you're trying to write in the newscaster format would be secret reveal, question, comparison, contrarian, or problem. Okay, third, we have the case study explainer story structure. The case study explainer story structure, that's a mouthful, is used whenever you're trying to educate a viewer on some blueprint or framework or process that was used to achieve some outcome in some way. Now, the outline for case study explainers is hook, the framework, which is typically 2 to 4 pieces breaking down in succession, the framework used, and then the outro. So it's really 3 blocks, but that framework block is like the whole story. There's mini blocks between. Case study explainers are best when you're trying to teach skills or break down some framework quickly. And typically the best hooks used when you're doing a case study story would be the case study hook, a question hook, or a comparison hook. All right, the fourth story structure out of 7 is the listicle. Now, the listicle story structure is pretty straightforward. It's when you're trying to educate a viewer using an ordered list of items. And the outline is very simple. It's hook, it's the list, whatever the 3 to 5 items would be, and then it's the outro. Now, listicles are best used when you have a mutually exclusive list of atomic units, things that you can break apart in separation and just go one after the next. Typically for listicle videos, you use the list hook, but you can also use the problem hook as well. All right, fifth, we have the problem solver story structure. And the problem solver story structure, again, a tongue twister, I need simpler names, is very common. It's when you're trying to agitate a pain to tee up some solution. Problem, agitation, solution. Now, the outline, I kind of just alluded to it, would be hook, problem, and you can agitate the problem in there, solution, outro. Problem solver stories are best when you're trying to lead with the problem. It's a very simple structure, but it's executed very well, especially for educational or product use cases. Now, typically for problem solver stories, you're going to use the problem hook, but you could also use the question hook or the contrarian hook. All right, sixth, we have the tutorial. And the tutorial story structure is really used as like a ride along or a recap of an experiment or some walkthrough of a system. This is what you'd want to use if you were explaining a step-by-step process for how to do something. Now, the outline for tutorial stories, very simple, is hook, the tutorial, which again is like a list-based step-by-step flow, and then the outro. So it's 3 blocks, but that middle block is kind of expanded. As I mentioned, tutorials are best for education, kind of explaining uncharted territory, trying to break down a complex system, things like that. Now, the difference between a tutorial and a list is that for a tutorial, you have a series of steps, but they all go in succession leading to one outcome. They don't really live alone. The steps can't live on their own. For list, every single unit, every single piece in the list can live on its own. So they're kind of like separate things. They can all help lead to the same outcome, but they're all separate. So it's contingent steps on each other and then separate. Now, the difference between a tutorial and a case study story structure, again, tutorial is step-by-step leading to one outcome. The case study is less how-to steps and more analysis or reflections of pieces that led to that outcome. So they're 2 sides of the same coin. All right, number 7 is educational or personal story. And this story structure is really used for storytelling from the first-person perspective. Anytime you want to lead with the creator's point of view, you're going to use this personal story structure. The outline for this is very simple. It's hook, personal experience story, actually telling the story, start, middle, end, and then outro. So it's 3 blocks, but again, that middle block is a bit expanded. And educational stories, like I said, are used to illustrate first-person learnings. Typically, they lead to motivation, inspiration, something of that nature. Now, the best hook to use for these would be the personal experience hook. You could also use the problem or contrarian hooks. All right, now that you know the 7 story structures, and apologies, that was a mouthful, the 2 questions that pop in your head again are the same thing. How do I know which one to use? And once I pick one, how do I write my story for my topic? How do I tweak it so that it works for me? Let's tackle both of those. First, how do you know which one to pick? The best way to know which one to pick is the exact same process I talked about when we were going over hooks. You want to study the best performing videos in your niche to figure out how they tell stories for those viewers in those topic areas, and then pick those 1 to 2 story structures that work over and over. Now, if you're a script writing guru, you can make any of the story structures work for any topic. But if you're not, and you just want to take the easy route, pick what's working for your topic and just use that. It couldn't be any easier. Now, I will say this, the winning story structures are gonna vary niche to niche, but for every niche, there are gonna be 1 or 2 standouts that always seem to work. And again, that's because the psychology of consuming different topics varies, and so certain storytelling methods are just more effective in certain areas than others. Now, the easiest way to figure out what the winning story structures are in your niche is to go to sandcastles.ai, build a watch list of all the top accounts using the channels tab, go to the videos tab, filter the videos by that watch list, sort by outlier score top to bottom, click into each individual video, scroll down, and look at the story structure analysis section. We literally put which of the 7 they're using on every single video. And really all it takes is going in maybe once a week, clicking on the top 20 or 30 and just noticing the pattern. There is always a pattern. You will see it right away. Now, of course, the last question is, once I pick which of the 7 to use, how do I actually tweak and write it for my topic? And again, you can either do this the manual way or the automated way. And you're probably sensing a theme here. I'm trying to give you all the tools for how to do these steps as fast as possible while still maintaining quality. But if you like the manual art of script writing, I'm still breaking down the why and the how so you can do it by hand. Now, when it comes to story structure and actually writing the story, both manual and automated benefit significantly from using sandcastles. Now, on the manual side, this is what I would do. I would go to the script tab in Sandcastles. I would go down to that script toolbar that we've been going to. The second button now, click that. That is now all 7 story structures laid out for you. Now, if you want to do this manually and you don't want to use Sandcastles to write, which is completely fine, click the copy button on whichever structure you like, paste that into your doc or paste it into ChatGPT, and that is now the outline that you can use. And what you're going to do is just start slotting in facts that you've already pulled, those interesting and shocking facts, into each bucket to logically tell the story from beginning to end. Now, obviously, there is an art to slotting in those facts. Obviously, there's an art to the writing itself, and I don't have enough time in this video to go into every nuance of the writing. If you want me to make a detailed breakdown on that, put that in the comments so I know. This is the shortcut for the writing. Imagine you were telling this story to a friend. You now know the facts you want to tell them. You now know how you would intro the story with the hook. How would you order those facts so they would understand it the most? What order do they go in? That's how you should think about sequencing the actual writing itself. If you want to watch a live breakdown where I script and kind of voice over exactly why I write each word the way I write it, I'll link that video below too. Now, of course, if you want to avoid all the headache of the manual part and trying to figure out how to sequence the steps, you can use the automated flow, which is going into Sandcastles, picking which of the structures you want to use, and then one click will write it for you. And again, if you don't like the way Sandcastles writes and you prefer ChatGPT or Claude, that's totally fine. But having access to the story structures, the hook formats, and the research report, these little pieces make it way easier to drive whatever process, manual, ChatGPT, or Claude you prefer. I'll be honest, I personally don't really like an AI program writing my scripts end to end. It just feels very artificial. But what I do like using is different pieces here or there to kind of stitch together my 90% draft as quick as I can, and then I manually edit from there. And before we move on and finish the video, the reason why it feels like Sandcastles is always the answer for doing this faster is because it is. I built Sandcastles specifically to make short form video 1,000 times faster. All these formulas, all these playbooks, all these learnings, nobody else is on the cutting edge like I am. If you like the way I explain this stuff, I am taking my brain and distilling it into Sandcastles so that you can use it on demand whenever you want. That's why it feels like it is the answer, because it is. Okay, let's zoom back out. At this point, we have now covered 3 of the 4 major script writing blockers. First, we broke down how to mine for the most interesting facts in the story. And then we covered the top hook formats and the top storytelling structures that you can use to start piecing together those facts. And we covered those in that order because this whole video was about how can you write scripts faster. And once you have structures and templates that allow you to know how to write the hook and how to write the story, this process gets way quicker. Now, the last blocker is the engagement blocker. And the question in your mind should be, if I'm able to hook them, if I'm able to hold them the whole time, how do I make this story good enough to where they actually engage and they like or share with a friend? And I'll give you this one super fast. The way to ensure the engagement happens is to increase the chances that an emotional transfer happens via some sort of payoff. Now, there are 6 buckets of emotions that you could use content to drive. You've got awe or inspiration, amusement or humor, excitement or joy, anger or outrage, surprise, shock, or curiosity, and then sadness or empathy. Those are the 6. The greater the transfer of emotion that your video has, A, the more the viewer will like it because the dopamine release, and B, the higher chance there is that they'll share it because they want to transfer that emotion to someone else. Now, the best way to ensure this emotional transfer happens is to be very intentional as you're writing on the emotion that you want to drive. And so what I like to do is write the desired emotion that I'm going for at the top of my page as a reminder when I'm writing so that I can use that as a filter. So those are the 4 key steps to go from a blank page to a finished script really fast and avoid the 4 big script writing blockers. Step 1, curate the highest shock, facts, takes, and opinions to ensure max interestingness of the video. Step 2, choose a proven hook structure and make sure your hook satisfies the 4 hook commandments. Step 3, choose a proven story structure. And step 4, ensure the emotional transfer happens. Now let's recap the step-by-step system that you should use for your script writing to ensure that you can get through it as fast as possible. The first step is that I'm researching and I'm writing down as many bullets as I can that are interesting about the topic. And again, the way I look for those is that I'm documenting anything that shocks me based on the 1 to 100 shock factor score. You can do this manually, or you can use the Sandcastle's research report feature to do this much faster. Second, based on the facts I find and the general approach I want to take, I'm going to write my desired emotion at the top of my paper to make sure that I'm using that as a filter for the rest of the process. Third, I'm picking the hook structure that I want to use, and I'm doing that by using Sandcastles to figure out which hook structures are working the best for my topic and my niche. I'm taking one of those hooks in that structure, and then I'm tweaking it and optimizing it for my specific video. And of course, I'm ensuring that that hook meets all 4 hook commandments and that I have a good visual to pair with it. Now, fourth, I'm picking the story structure that I want to use to write the rest of my script. To do this, again, I'm looking at what has already worked in my niche using the Sandcastles analysis process, and I'm thinking about my own personal spin and the facts I have at my disposal, combining those to pick the right story structure. I'm taking that story structure, I'm writing the outline of that structure on my page, and I'm starting to think about how I can slot different facts in. Just writing down those sections, I'm telling you, is very helpful in the flow. All right, fifth, I'm gonna actually write the script using that outline. And I know we didn't talk about this piece as explicitly as the others, but once you have the hook format chosen, the shocking facts pulled, and the story structure outline decided, it's really just about layering the facts in order and adding transitions to smooth it out. That's really all you have to do to write a banger script. And again, I will go through a much deeper dive on the writing in the future. If you guys want that, just comment below. All right, then lastly, I'm gonna read through the finished script and I'm gonna have that emotional filter in my mind again. And I'm just gut checking if I want anger shock, did this script written drive anger shock in me or not? It's the last check. If not, I will change the wording and phrasing to make that emotion more visceral. Now at the end, once I have all 6 of those things completed, there's a quick 4-step checklist, 4 questions really that I'm asking myself to make sure that it's finished. This is what I'm asking. Is this story interesting? Is this story as compressed as it can possibly be? Does this hook actually hook me on its own? And what emotion do I feel when I finish reading? If I can get through those 4 questions just based on the text script alone, I know I'm good once I add visuals because they'll only make it better. All right, guys, that is all I've got for this video. This was a masterclass on how to write scripts 10 times faster. Obviously, the only way you're gonna get the script writing from 60 minutes down to 60 seconds is if you use an AI tool from end to end. But if you're like me, you probably feel like the AI writing just doesn't hit. It's just not there at the quality you want. What I found to be the fastest while still maintaining effective quality and being able to go viral whenever I want is using the system and automated pieces where it makes sense, but then stitching together and editing manually. That combo seems to work the best. And I'm telling you, using Sandcastles to find the proven outliers, both for hooks and story structures, that alone will save you 10x the time when you're trying to figure out how to write the script. As always, guys, I'm trying the absolute best to make it easier for you to make better content. That's my whole mission with this channel. Whether you're a creator or a business owner, this script writing framework should help you a ton. Keep me posted in the comments if you guys like this one. I really do read every comment and use it as a guide for what videos to make next. So if you want something or you're confused, please leave a comment and let me know what I should cover. And remember, if you're a business owner and you're still watching, I built a free community specifically for you. Entrepreneurs trying to get better at content. We have 31,000 business owners in there. There are 60 free trainings just like this. Everybody's working together to help each other. Everyone's giving feedback. It's honestly a great vibe. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to join that, it's completely free. I've got an invite link below. Until the next one, we will see you guys then. Peace. Today we're talking about psychology. This is the biggest secret weapon used by all of your favorite creators. They are masters at this. If you want your videos to perform better, all you have to study is human psychology. But it's not just psychology principles. You can't learn this content stuff in a book. Social media psychology is how to engineer your storytelling to get a viewer to think and act how you want. And if you can do this on command, you win. Now I have over 1 million followers, done 1 billion views, and this one thing has been the biggest cheat code to my success. It is the foundational building block that powers everything, and I'm just gonna give it to you. This is my full content psychology playbook, 18 different tricks that you can use to get people addicted to your videos without them knowing it. All right, so I boil down every video into 6 steps. Think of these like gates or checkpoints. And I need to get the viewer through these 6 checkpoints before they bounce or the video flops. Now for each one, I use a combination of different psychology hacks to pull them through. And I'm gonna break down each one of those hacks and how you can use them in your videos. Okay, so the first major checkpoint in any video is pain point acceptance. Before you do anything else, you have to get the viewer to feel whatever pain point it is you're solving for in the video. Usually the core pain stems from not having enough money, time, health, or access. Those are the 4 horsemen of pain. And there's many ways to frame a pain, but at a base level, before you do anything else in the video, the viewer has to feel a pain point. Now I can already hear the skeptics in the nosebleeds. What about entertainment style content like Mr. Beast or Minecraft videos? There's no pain point in those. And you're 100% right. Those are pure entertainment plays. And those can work, but my take is that if you're playing for pure entertainment, the competition is much, much steeper because you're competing against Family Time, Hollywood grade movies, Mr. Beast himself, the Instagram feed, reading in bed. If you're not an absolute pro, you're gonna lose the entertainment game. But if you're solving a specific pain point, all of a sudden you fit into a different category in the viewer's brain. And if your goal is to make money online, value first, pain point driven content is the best way to do it. Okay, so checkpoint 1 is making them accept the pain. Now, what are the exact psychological hacks to get them to do this? I have 4 methods. The first one is by going 1 standard deviation away from the pain to trick them into accepting it. So let me explain what that means. The key with content is getting a viewer to opt in to accepting they have a pain point without triggering their BS detector. It's like robbing a bank. If you trip the red wire, the alarms will go off and they're gonna call the police. You remember when I said all core pains stem from not having time, money, health, or access? Well, the problem is if you come out directly and say something like, if you wanna make more money, do this, it often triggers their BS detector and they'll dismiss you. And this happens because most viewers are smart and they think to themselves, well, it can't be that easy, right? This must be nonsense. And so then they start second guessing what you're saying. And this is all happening subconsciously because of their psychology. Once the BS detector is tripped in their mind, you've lost them because now they don't trust you. So this is where the 1 standard deviation away hack comes in. Sometimes it can be easier to get someone to opt into a pain by going 1 standard deviation away from what they actually want and having them make the leap themselves. For example, let's take the pain of trying to grow on social media. That's what I talk about. Most people want to grow on social media because they think it'll help them make more money. They don't actually want to spend 40 hours a week making videos. They want the money. But the beauty is that most people assume that if they grow on social media, they will make money. They treat them as the same. So targeting the pain that they aren't growing their social channels fast enough is a way to disarm them on the money pain without triggering their BS detector. They will make the leap that you helping them with social media will help them make more money, which is what they really want. And to prove this is the case, if you look at all of my videos on my YouTube channel, anytime I talk specifically about making more money, those videos don't perform very well. But anytime I talk about specifics of making better videos or new social trends for growing faster, people associate that with making more money and those videos crush. And this isn't an accident, this is psychology at work. So the specific tactic here is understanding which of the 4 horsemen base pains you're targeting and then figuring out how to go 1 standard deviation away to solve a tactical problem. All right, the second hack for trying to get a viewer to accept the pain point is what I call twisting the knife. Here, your goal is to remind the viewer of their pain point and the frustration that they've been experiencing because they haven't solved it. Twist the knife. The best way to do this tactically, no surprise, is to talk about the pain point and that frustration as bluntly and directly as possible. So for example, I might say something like, if you've been struggling with storytelling, I've been there. I know how hard it is. This reminds them of the struggle and deepens the gap. It seems obvious, but this is adding tinder to the burning fire of them wanting to solve the problem. Also, FOMO and jealousy are other great ways to remind them of this frustration and deepen the pain. All right, the third psychology hack for getting a viewer to accept the pain point is what I call an audience of one. And this is very simple. Speak to them directly. Don't use the word I, use the word you. Make it about them. Make them the main character. Make them think about themselves and their unique situation. I use the word you more than any other word in my videos. It's like a teacher yelling, "Hey you," to a group of kindergartners, right? It stuns them immediately and makes them lock back in. I also try my delivery to make it seem like I'm talking directly to you and no one else. And this comes mostly from tone and rhythm, which you have to just adjust over time. The best way to do this is observe two people having a conversation and then try to mimic that tone and rhythm. Nobody wants a preacher, they want a friend. Again, these things seem obvious, and I'm gonna show you an example in a second about why they're so powerful, but I'm telling you, stacking these on top of each other creates this deep pain point. All right, the fourth and last hack for getting a user to accept the pain point is to create the pain point solution gap. You need them to realize that there is both a pain point to be solved and a gap between where they are today and where they want to be. You can do this tactically by literally moving your hands from one side to the other, or you could use graphics, or you could continue to pepper examples showing the distance between where they are and where they want to be. As you can tell, and I've heard this in the comments, I find the hands thing to be super helpful with this. Now, you don't have to do all four of those hacks all together every single video, but by doing these four things, you make them aware of the right pain, frame it so it applies to them specifically, and build an urgency for them to figure out how to close the gap. If you do this, you have them hook, line, and sinker through that first checkpoint, and they are super eager to find out what comes next. Now, I'm gonna show you an example. The first three checkpoints all happen in the hook of the video in the first 10 to 30 seconds, so I'm really breaking it down, but this happens super quickly, getting them through those first three checkpoints. Let's review the hook that I used in this video just a couple minutes ago, and I'm gonna show you exactly how I do this in practice. By the way, the reason you're still watching is because I used this exact psychology hack to hook you. So if you're wondering if it works, it works. Today we're talking about psychology. This is the biggest secret weapon used by all of your favorite creators. They are masters at this. If you want your videos to perform better, all you have to study is human psychology. But it's not just psychology principles. You can't learn this content stuff in a book. Social media psychology is how to engineer your storytelling to get a viewer to think and act how you want. And if you can do this on command, you win. All right, so here's the transcript of the first half of the hook for this video. And I'm gonna color code each of the four psychology hacks that deal with this first pain point checkpoint. Now, the first line is just me setting context that it's about psychology. I kind of had to do that. Then immediately I start twisting the knife using jealousy. I say, this is the biggest secret weapon used by all your favorite creators. Now, I could have started by explicitly stating the pain itself, like you're trying to grow on social media through video, but that is implied by me using creator. So at this point, subconsciously, you feel this frustration because you want to grow like your favorite creators, but you haven't figured it out. I'm reminding you of that frustration subconsciously. That deepens the pain point gap if you want your videos to perform better. So I'm saying it directly right here. Again, I know every single person watching this wants to make money. That's why they're trying to grow on social media. So this is the one standard deviation away from the core four horsemen pain. Now that rolls directly into the pain point solution gap. If you want better videos, pain point, you need to understand psychology, solution. And this is all happening in real time, but like 7 seconds in, I've already kind of got you deeply reminded of the pain, jealous about the other creators, and interested in how to solve. It happens fast. Now, because psychology as a concept is kind of high level and not clear, I decided to use another line to reiterate exactly what I'm talking about and how you can apply it to making better videos. So I say psychology is how you engineer people to do and act how you want. And if you do this, you can win. Again, pain point solution gap. If you do this, you can win. Now, the last thing to highlight is how many times I use the word you in the first half of this hook. 9 times. And I use the word I 0. This is also intentional. This video is not about me. It's about you. It's about helping you solve the pain. I'm not talking about me yet. Now, I spent so much time on checkpoint 1 in this video so far, because again, if you can't get the viewer to accept that there's a pain point, you lose. Do not pass go. There is no reason to continue. You have to nail this first. Now, before I go on to the next checkpoints, why does this work so well? It works so well because human brains are problem-solving machines. If you give a brain a problem, it is designed to figure out how to solve it. By starting with the problem in the video script, we are hacking the viewer's neurochemistry to get them to pay attention to it. And this first step is critical because it aligns their subconscious on the problem so that you can tell them the rest of the story. Before watching the video, they may not have been problem aware, or if they knew the problem, they weren't consciously focusing. So you need to angle their attention on the problem and then continue. Okay, so this is checkpoint 1. At this point, the viewer is now deeply problem aware and interested in figuring out how to solve it. All right, before I move on, and there is some gold coming up, I just gotta say, guys, nobody talks about content the way I do. I've looked so far for people that make videos like this, and there just aren't any. I take all of this and I put it for free in the description in my free community Wavy World, my free newsletter content.game. I want you guys to win. I think there's so much opportunity for everyone to win the way they want, so I give it all for free. Make sure you check the description if you like the way I talk about this stuff. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so as soon as the viewer is aware of the pain point, the next step, checkpoint 2, you need to immediately sprint to trust. You need them to trust you ASAP. You essentially have between 10 and 30 seconds after they accept that a problem is real to pass their BS detector for them to trust that you're the type of person that could solve it. If they sense that you don't know what you're talking about, that you don't have proof that you've done this before, or that you don't have the answer, they're gonna bounce and you lose them. And this, checkpoint 2, is another make or break moment in psychology hacking. Do they trust you? So, what are the ways to get them to trust you? This is the list in order from most effective to least effective. The best and top of the list is proof that you have solved this problem for someone just like them. This is why on-target case studies and testimonials are so critical. It's why they're all over sales pages. If a viewer sees themselves in a success story that you have, they immediately trust that you can do this for them. If you don't have a testimonial of you doing this for others, the next best case is proof that you've done it for yourself. This proves that you can do it, but they may not trust you as much as the testimonial if they don't see themselves in you. The third highest trust builder would be massive social followings on any account, ideally the account you're on, or a pre-verified cosign from someone that they trust. Social followings basically prove that you are trusted and vetted by many at scale. This helps decrease their fear that you don't know what you're talking about. The fourth is evidence that you have been in their shoes and you are not in their shoes anymore. This doesn't necessarily mean that you were the one that controlled the transformation, but it does mean you have underwent the transformation, so you at least know where they have been and where they want to go. Fifth, and this is second from the bottom, is common ground. Anything you can do to build common ground between them and you, just to build rapport. And then last, but I think still effective, is the overall look and quality of your presentation of the information. The studio, the audio, the confidence, the posture, the way the whole package is put together. If you come off like you know what you're doing, they will subconsciously start to trust you a little bit. This alone isn't gonna get you there, but it's helpful icing on the top. And this look thing, this is why most salespeople wear suits. There's a reason why people do the things they do, why they put testimonials on their sites, why salespeople wear suits. It's because they're trying to build trust. Now, like I said, you don't need the full 1 through 6 list to be true. If you have any one of the top 3, you're probably good. That's all you need. But if you don't, you may need multiple of the bottom 3. The bigger the ask, the more trust required. The deeper the pain, the less trust required. Now, I have 3 super quick psychological hacks that go one level deeper for how you actually facilitate this trust transfer. So the first one, around proof. This is gonna sound stupidly obvious, but use screenshots of the testimonials, bank statements, A/B tests, before and afters, social followings. Some visual proof is usually all you need to justify credibility that you've done what you say. And it usually just takes 1 or 2 of these flashed rapidly, and then the trust is built. Now, if you have no proof, you need to build common ground or show that you've been in their shoes before. And even if you try this, it may not stick, but you have to try something. The best way to build common ground is to hack their subconscious psychology by saying things like, I've been exactly where you are. I've gone through this same thing. I know what it feels like, right? Saying those things helps build empathy and common ground between them and you. At this point, if you don't have proof, they are running the BS filter scan in their head, absorbing everything, trying to vet, do I trust them? Do I trust them? And I'll be honest, the longer they're running that BS scan, the less chance you have. So you really want to establish trust as quickly as possible. Now, in addition to building common ground, an easy way to hack their trust, like I said, is having a professional setup. This is a huge way to increase trust. Because when you're small and you have no credibility, you have no proof, but people see you have a legit setup, immediately in their mind, they're wondering, wait, how does this person not have any proof? How does this person not have any wins? He has such a great setup. She has such a great setup. They actually start to root for you in a weird way. It inverts. That's why having this professional look is so critical. Again, if you have crazy proof, you can record on a low quality 720p camera in your underwear. But if you don't have any proof, this is a way to kind of elevate yourself without having done anything else. Again, this trust checkpoint is critical. If the viewer does not trust you, they're not going to continue watching and you lose. Now, one note on this, at the beginning of your journey making content, the reason why it takes so long to grow initially is because you don't have proof or credibility, and so a low fraction of people trust you long enough to listen to your information. That's why it takes so long to get those first 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 subscribers. But as you get some trust, as you grow, you start to build a following. People will then trust the following, and the cosign is easier from people, and then the compounding continues. This is why it takes so long to grow at the beginning, because you don't have trust. I actually didn't start making YouTube videos until I had 500,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok. And this was strategic. I didn't want to risk spending $1,000 per YouTube video on editing and thumbnails until I knew that I had at least number 3 on that list of credibility. Now, I actually do have almost 1 million followers. I actually have driven over 1 billion views. I actually have done the transformation myself, and I know the answer. So it's easy for you to trust me because I have these things. So I now have proof figuring this out for myself. I have big social followings. I've been where you were because I used to not. Plus, I speak directly to entrepreneurs and builders that were like me, so I have established common ground. I also spent a ton of time and money building out this set. So of the list of 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have all of them except the top one. And now for the top one, I have an academy of entrepreneurs that I'm teaching the methods to. I'm also getting cold DMs of people that are using my YouTube videos to get traction on their own. So very soon I'll have the top one as well. I will have the full 6. And this is really important to me because to me, everything I do is optimized to build trust. That's why I give the answers away. I want everyone to trust me because I want to help people. I genuinely do. And so that goes back and forth and it helps build the trust immediately. Okay, so that's checkpoint 2. So to reorient us, the viewer has now accepted that a pain point is there they want to solve, and they now trust you as a potential vehicle that could solve it. So what comes next? Okay, so checkpoint 3 is plan of attack. As soon as they feel like the pain point applies to them and they trust you as someone that may solve it, immediately they want to know if you have a plan for doing so. If you don't share a legit plan, they will then churn. So there are 2 things you need to do here in checkpoint 3. You need to share that you have a plan and explain why your plan is different than anything else they've seen before. The first one is to create the point of difference between your plan and everyone else's. Now, the easiest way to create the point of difference is to create contrast between what they've commonly seen and what you believe your contrarian take, right? So if they want to accomplish X and everyone says to do Y and you say to do Z and you can convince them that Z is better, they will hold to see what Z is. The brain constantly is looking for easier, better, faster ways to solve their problem. So if you create the problem and they trust you as a solve for it and you suggest something that may be different than what they've seen before, they're going to be so curious that they will wait to find out what it is. This is building that point of difference, the contrast, the curiosity loop. Whatever you call it, that's how you do it. Now, the other psychology hack here, once you establish you have a point of difference, immediately they want to know, what is your plan? Now, people like structure, they like order, they like alignment. Structure helps them remember things. When they remember things, they feel smart. When they feel smart, they associate feeling smart with you as the person that makes them feel smart, and they trust you more. So the best way to deliver the plan in structure is a list. These are my 5 tips for doing X. These are my 18 psychology hacks. Present your thoughts in a structured list. The brain is very good at understanding numbers and chunking things down into steps. That's how we learn everything as a kid. If you jump into your tactics in the video without teeing it up as a list, without putting a structure around it, people will feel lost and confused. If they're lost and confused, they churn. So now for the last time, I'm gonna pull up my full hook from this video one more time, and I'm gonna show you how I walk through creating the list and creating the point of difference. Okay, now I actually embedded the point of difference a little bit earlier, like 2 birds, 1 stone. I talked about this in the pain point section, but this is the point of difference. So I said, if you want to grow on social media, you need psychology, but not psychology in a book. You need to understand how to implement psychology to hack viewers' brains to do and act how you want. There's kind of 2 points of difference there. There's growth. You think it's this, I say psychology. There's psychology. You think it's book learning. I say it's actually implementing in videos. There's actually 2 subconsciously there. And I did it earlier instead of later because I'm trying to use the fewest amount of sentences. I figured it was 2 birds, 1 stone. Now the ordered list thing comes later. Obviously, this is me saying I have 18 psychology hacks. I have a full playbook. This is me presenting the plan to you. And then right after I finish the hook, I then reiterate that there are 6 checkpoints and those checkpoints are stage gates. I say it again because I don't want 18 to feel overwhelming. So I say 6 again to break it down. That's how important it is to explain things with structure. And this all happened in 24 seconds across 12 sentences. If you can pull a viewer through these 3 checkpoints as fast as possible, they will then be primed for the rest of the video. Okay, so at this point, the viewer has accepted there's a pain point to solve. They trust you and they know you have a plan to solve it. So there's just one big question left. And this is one that matters so much. Do they want you to be the one to solve it for them? Do they like you? This is likability. The number one psychological hack or checkpoint or bucket to get people addicted to your content is to make them like you enough to want to watch it. People disarm their inhibitions when they genuinely like a person. I'm not just talking about physical attraction. Do they like the energy and brand that you bring forward? This is critical. And as someone who's typically monotone, I have brought my energy up to create this likability, or at least I hope. If you're watching this, I hope you like the way I'm presenting this. I have 3 psychological hacks to improve your likability if you're a creator. Now, the first one, the biggest one, is energy. People act like mirrors. If you give low energy, they will receive that and start giving low energy back. If you have high energy, it's infectious. The easiest way to get people to resonate with your content on a psychological level is to bring your energy of delivery up by like 50%. And the easiest way to do this is what I do, is I record one line at a time. It sounds crazy, but when you talk in paragraphs, you start to trail off towards the end of your sentences. Reading 6, 7 sentences off the top of your head, you just lose energy. But if you record one line at a time, yes, you have to chop it after, but you can deliver with high energy every single line. This is a super, super easy hack to up your energy. Now, the second best way to increase likability is simplification. Again, people like when they feel smart. If you make them feel dumb, they will not like you. It's really that simple. This means using simple words and short sentences. So what I do is I repeat my points twice. If I say something with technical jargon, I'll repeat it a second time, saying it again with simpler terms and maybe using a metaphor that's a little bit easier to understand. And I kind of just talk in this way normally. I think that's one of the superpowers of my style, but this simplification by force is actually a really helpful way to increase people's comprehension. When they can hear you and understand you, they like you more. Now, the third best way to become more likable is to genuinely just be yourself. And I know it sounds so basic, but people can detect when you're playing a character. I legitimately wear this black hoodie every single day, this black hat every day. I talk like this. I'm a content nerd. I'm a business nerd. You cannot fake this energy around this stuff. And because of that, you can sense that through the camera, and you like me more for it. Whether you believe what I say or not, you like when people talk about things they like. That's how the brain works. They just perceive authenticity. And this is the big thing. When you're likable, people root for you and they want to be around you. They want you to be the one that solves their problems. And as a creator, when you're trying to identify a problem, a pain point that they pay attention to and solve it, this is all you're after. Now, if you're not likable, if you're kind of a grouch, you can still win, but it's gonna take so much longer because your value and your information has to be so good that it overcomes the deficiency of your personality. It's much easier if people just like you. Now, the sooner someone likes you, the better, and the easier it'll be to hold them. So it's possible they may already come into a video having liked you from something else. So in that case, checkpoint 4 is already checked off. But if this is the first thing they're seeing of you, they're probably gonna take 3 to 5 minutes and make a call whether they like you or not. Those 3 things I mentioned are ways to improve your chances of someone liking you more. All right, so checkpoint 5. At this point, the viewer has understood the pain point, they trust you, they understand you have a plan, and they like you. But this is all pre-value. This is like the intro stage. You were just trying to get them to opt in to giving you a chance to hear what you have to say. And now you can see why the hook in your video is so important and why it takes so much time to dial it in. We've deployed like 12 psychology tactics up to this point, just trying to get the viewer primed to accept any kind of message. So the next question, checkpoint 5, is can we get them to pay attention long enough to hear what we have to say? It's crazy when you really think about it, right? You spent all that time, all that effort, all that energy trying to get them to pay attention long enough to potentially give you the chance to deliver a message, and still you have to fight to hold their attention. It's pretty crazy, but this is kind of the most important checkpoint within the body of the video, is getting them to continue to pay attention until the last stage. So of course, I have a few psychology hacks for getting them to hold their attention. The first one is to create a hunt. People's brains work in loops. When they open a loop, they need to close it. That is why to-do lists are so nagging. You write something down on a to-do list, you fret until it's closed. People work in open and closed loops. So when you need to keep someone interested for 20 or 30 minutes to watch a full video, you need to continually open loops in their brain. The best way to do this is to lead with the most valuable piece of information first and then tease that there are other things like it buried throughout the video. That first piece is like a dopamine release and it validates that it's worth staying. Then you create this hunt, these loops that people have to hunt to close. To do this tactically, just continue reminding them about the gold at the end. I didn't really do it well in this video, but you can think about when people talk about 6 tactics and when they're on number 2, they say, and wait for the end because the last one's gonna be great, right? That is them opening a long-term loop while they close these mini ones. They want you to stay to close that long-term loop. All right, hack number 14 is re-hooking. In previous videos, I've talked a lot about the importance of re-hooking throughout your content, because you do all that work to lay the initial hook, but then if you don't re-hook, everything just atrophies down to 0. So you have to keep re-hooking their interest. And the best way to do that is to keep reigniting that pain point solution gap. Where are they? Where do they want to be? Remind them, where are they? Where do they want to be? Create contrast against where they are, where they want to be. Common belief, contrarian take. Continue to create that contrast and you'll be able to re-hook them throughout. Now, the best way to do this is that contrarian flip. So saying things like, now that point was good, but honestly, if you don't figure out this point, it's never gonna work, right? Continuing to give that zigzag dance, that's how you re-hook them. All right, another way to keep them interested throughout, and I talk a lot about this in my storytelling video, which I'll link here if you wanna check out, during the body storytelling, a lot of these techniques I broke down a lot deeper in some other videos, but a great way to do this is what I call a trance rhythm. If you create a desirable rhythm with the cadence of your words, they will stay because it's soothing to listen to. I've noticed that the monotony that comes with same length sentences actually leads to boredom and then people churn. So the best way to do this is to use your voice as an instrument and try to deliver off-balance enunciation, off-balance cadence to create this rhythm. Keep them on their toes, some short sentences, and then deliver some long legato sentences, some compound sentences, some quick sentences. Keep them off balance and it creates this trance style rhythm where they're just locked into hearing it. It's almost like music in a way. If you look down your script and you don't see a jagged line with the end of your sentences, that means all of your sentences are around the same length and it creates that monotonous plodding feeling. You want that jagged line. So look down your script and make sure you have that. All right, so now we've come to the last checkpoint, checkpoint 6. This is what you're after. The whole reason you do 1 through 5 is to get people to checkpoint 6. Checkpoint 6 is getting the viewer to take an action. So far, you've established a pain point, built trust, laid out a plan, got them to like you, and re-hooked them throughout the video so that they could absorb most of your value. So the last step, can you get them to take the action? After all, that's why we're making content in the first place. We need viewers to take some action. Now that action could be to subscribe, it could be to share, it could be to sign up for a free email list or a lead magnet or a community. It also could be to convert and transact for a paid product right from the video. The actions vary, but we need the viewer to take an action. If they don't, it's not that the rep was all for nothing, but we don't really close the process that we were trying to do here. Now I've got 3 final psychology hacks to trick the viewer into taking the action. The first one is called close the loop. At the end of the video, tell the viewer that you have successfully closed the pain point solution gap. And that by doing this, they should have everything they need to be able to take the information in the video and solve for it themselves. But if they would like to increase the speed and get to the solution faster, then they can take your action or purchase your product. This hack of reminding them that all the information is there, but if they want speed, they can pay for it, is super effective. And it works because almost no one can absorb 100% of the information on the first go round. The whole point of the video was to demonstrate that you have the end-to-end knowledge. And 5% of people are going to be able to take that, watch it 3 times, and implement it themselves. God bless them. It's the other 95% that want to pay for speed now that they trust you that'll take the action. The hack is that you reminded them that the loop is closed, because by reminding them, it re-signals that pain point that they wanted to solve. They will feel like it's still unsolved because they haven't absorbed all the information, and they will look to take an action to solve it. All right, my second hack for getting the viewer to take the desired action is an unexpected surprise. Most of life boils down to expectations versus reality. If they expected a high-quality masterpiece in your video, but you fell short, chances are they're not going to take the action. But if the reality of watching the video blew away their expectations, especially if it was because of how valuable the information actually was, they are way more likely to take the action that you suggested. This is why I was able to grow from 0 to 65,000 subs on YouTube in like 2 months. I try to make all of my videos at a 12 out of 10 quality that blows people away. So this, the unexpected surprise, works every time. All right, and the last psychology tip, hack number 18, is the recap. Tell the viewer what you're gonna do it, and then remind them at the end of what you did. That reminding is the recap. This is the final nail that closes the loop on that pain point solution gap. And that by doing that, it reminds them that they should take the action if they haven't yet solved the pain. Watch, I'm gonna show you an example right here as I close this, but I'm only doing it as long as you take the action. look in the description. All right, guys, that's all I have for this video. Those were 18 tricks to hack viewer psychology to get more addicted into your content. If you like this video and you want more breakdowns like this, I kind of like making these, but I don't know if you like them too. If you like them, leave a comment. Let me know what I should cover in the next video. And remember, there is so much free stuff in the description. I'm giving it all away. If you want your videos to be better, if you want to grow faster on social media, the links and the invites are below for you to take advantage of. Until next time, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. If you want to make more content faster, all you need is a better system. And the truth is, this is the secret for how all the top creators and brands are generating so much more traction than everyone else. They've all built winning content systems using a specific combination of AI tools. Now, I'll be honest, most AI tools are absolute trash. And the ones that aren't are usually way too general to actually help you with content unless you really know what you're doing. But here's the good news. I built a workflow that uses AI tools to speed up the content creation process significantly. It's some AI and some human. And this isn't faceless AI slop content. These are the actual videos that I post that get tens of millions of views every single month. So in this video, I'm gonna break down my entire AI content system. This is my 5-step workflow that uses AI tools to generate high quality videos way faster than normal. And by the way, if you don't know me, my name's Callaway. I have 1 million followers, I've done billions of views, and I'm one of the biggest creators in both the AI and content marketing spaces. So this intersection, AI and content, is all I do all day long. All right, the first step, we'll call it step 0, is to define the content workflow. And it's really very simple. You've got idea, research, scripting, recording, and editing. This is the same 5-step workflow that everybody has to go through to make any piece of video content. Now, the secret for winning on social media is to build a system that lets you get through that 5-step workflow as quickly as possible, while still coming up with unique ideas, novel angles, winning hooks, viral scripts, and editing that actually holds attention. You can't just build an AI workflow that pumps out bad AI content, or you won't get the results you want. So you need tools that will speed up the process while also maintaining the level of quality that will cut through. And that's the system we're gonna break down right now. Okay, step number 1 in the workflow is the idea. Most people have absolutely no process for generating and filtering ideas. And this first step really is where the content game is won and lost. Now, there are 3 places you can look to generate winning content ideas. The first is to just generate them from your own imagination. We'll call these originals. The second is to look at other content platforms outside of your home base. So if you're focused on Instagram, you might look at email newsletters, X, YouTube, podcasts, linear TV, blogs, really anywhere that people are talking about your topic outside of your home platform. And the third option for finding ideas is to look at other creators in your niche on the home platform that you're focused on. So if you're primarily focused on Instagram, this will be looking at other creators in your niche, specifically that make short form video on Instagram. Now, the traditional process for generating ideas, the non-systematized approach, is what I call just-in-time ideation. This is what most people do and why creating content takes so long for them. Every time you want to make a video, which is usually every day, you sit down and start scrolling the feed to find new video ideas. Now, this process can take 5 minutes or a couple of hours, and people are doing this every single day. This is where you're losing a bunch of time and efficiency. And that's because when you scroll the feed for ideas, you're getting maximum noise and minimum signal. Even though the algorithms are serving you some good videos in your niche, you still have to wade through a bunch of unrelated nonsense. This is all noise. It's a complete distraction from your productivity. And what happens, as we all know, is that every time you open the feed to scroll for ideas, you end up getting sucked into something unproductive, or you feel bad about yourself for the progress that other people in your space are making. I know this is what happens because I did the exact same thing for a very long time. It takes forever to make content when you're searching for new ideas every single day by scrolling. So here's the systematized approach for coming up with ideas that will reduce your ideation time down to 1 hour per week. You can spend more time if you want, but you're not gonna have to if you wanna go as fast as possible. All right, first you have to understand that the highest signal source for ideas is option 3 that I mentioned before. Option 3 was looking at other creators in your niche on your home platform. Specifically, looking at the videos they've made that have outperformed everything else that they've posted. We call these outliers, and this really is the cheat code for ideation. Your goal is to find the outliers that outperformed everything else and study why they outperformed. If you can reverse engineer those pieces, you can easily make your own and you'll grow a lot faster. So here's what I literally do when it comes to ideation. This is my actual process. I do this whole thing on sandcastles.ai. This was my content super tool built specifically for this workflow. The first thing I do is make a watch list of all the creators on my home platform in my niche that are crushing with short form content. So for me, in this example that I'm showing you, it's on Instagram for tech and AI. That's the niche we're covering. Now, this can be other creators, it can be brands, it can be faceless channels. It doesn't matter who it's coming from, but you need channels that are doing well, high views, and growing fast. Now, to find them and add them to my list on Sandcastles, all I have to do is search their username or their URL in the channels tab in the search bar. When they come up, I click them and I add them to my list. It could not be easier. So I've already done this for tech and AI content. I've got these 18 to 20 creators. These are all the best in the world for my niche, and I just added them one by one following the process I just went through. Now on the channels tab in Sandcastles, you can already see in the upper left, there are over 20,000 of the top accounts across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube already loaded into Sandcastles. You can search those names, click the card, and they're available right now. But Sandcastles is not just limited to those 20,000 channels, because you can literally add anyone else you want just by searching and importing. All you have to do for anyone on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube is just paste in their username or paste in their URL. If they don't come up, click add to channel or that add to channel button on the right side, and then import them. Sandcastles will automatically index their entire backlog, and that person will be included in the network forever moving forward. So seeing this, you have unlimited flexibility to build any list with any amount of people across Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, whether they're already on Sandcastles today or not. And I'm telling you, building these watch lists in Sandcastles is the single greatest time-saving content productivity hack you could do. And I'm gonna show you why it's so helpful when it comes to ideation and the rest of the workflow right now. All right, once I have that watch list built, and it's really just a one-time effort, I then go to the videos tab in Sandcastles. On the videos tab, I can filter by the watch list I just made. And this shows me all the videos posted by just those accounts in my watch list. So what I do after I filter by the watch list is I go to post date and I restrict the posts to the last 30 or 60 days. I also go to engagement rate and I set the minimum to 0.5% so I can filter out all the paid brand deals. And what is left are the top performing organic videos from just the accounts in my watch list over the last month or two. This is the cream of the crop for your niche. These are the only videos you need to study if you want to replicate the winners. Now, if you want to surface the top videos from smaller channels in your niche, any of the channels with fewer followers that are growing faster, you just want to sort this list by outlier score. That tends to favor the smaller channels. On the flip side, if you want to see the best videos at the top from the biggest channels, I call these the proven winners or the thoroughbred horses, you can sort by views instead of outlier score. This tends to performing organic do. And I'm gonna show you why it's so helpful when it comes to ideation and the rest of the workflow right now. All right, once I have that watch list built, and it's really just a one-time effort, I then go to the videos tab in Sandcastles. On the videos tab, I can filter they've made that have outperformed everything else that they've posted. We call these outliers, and this really is the cheat code for ideation. Your goal is to find the outliers that outperformed everything else and study why they outperformed. If you can reverse engineer those pieces, you can easily make your own and you'll grow a lot faster. So here's what I literally do when it comes to ideation. This is my actual process. I do this whole thing on sandcastles.ai. This was my content super tool built specifically for this workflow. The first thing I do is make a watch list of all the creators on my home platform in my niche that are crushing with short form content. So for me, in this example that I'm showing you, it's on Instagram for tech and AI. That's the niche we're covering. Now, this can be other creators, it can be brands, it can be faceless channels. It doesn't matter who it's coming from, but you need channels that are doing well, high views, and growing fast. Now, to find them and add them to my list on Sandcastles, all I have to do is search their username or their URL in the channels tab in the search bar. When they come up, I click them and I add them to my list. It could not be easier. So I've already done this for tech and AI content. I've got these 18 to 20 creators. These are all the best in the world for my niche, and I just added them one by one following the process I just went through. Now on the channels tab in Sandcastles, you can already see in the upper left, there are over 20,000 of the top accounts across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube already loaded into Sandcastles. You can search those names, click the card, and they're available right now. But Sandcastles is not just limited to those 20,000 channels, because you can literally add anyone else you want just by searching and importing. All you have to do for anyone on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube is just paste in their username or paste in their URL. If they don't come up, click add to channel or that add to channel button on the right side, and then import them. Sandcastles will automatically index their entire backlog, and that person will be included in the network forever moving forward. So seeing this, you have unlimited flexibility to build any list with any amount of people across Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, whether they're already on Sandcastles today or not. And I'm telling you, building these watch lists in Sandcastles is the single greatest time-saving content productivity hack you could do. And I'm gonna show you why it's so helpful when it comes to ideation and the rest of the workflow right now. All right, once I have that watch list built, and it's really just a one-time effort, I then go to the videos tab in Sandcastles. On the videos tab, I can filter by the watch list I just made. And this shows me all the videos posted by just those accounts in my watch list. So what I do after I filter by the watch list is I go to post date and I restrict the posts to the last 30 or 60 days. I also go to engagement rate and I set the minimum to 0.5% so I can filter out all the paid brand deals. And what is left are the top performing organic videos from just the accounts in my watch list over the last month or two. This is the cream of the crop for your niche. These are the only videos you need to study if you want to replicate the winners. Now, if you want to surface the top videos from smaller channels in your niche, any of the channels with fewer followers that are growing faster, you just want to sort this list by outlier score. That tends to favor the smaller channels. On the flip side, if you want to see the best videos at the top from the biggest channels, I call these the proven winners or the thoroughbred horses, you can sort by views instead of outlier score. This tends to favor the bigger existing channels over the smaller. If you want the most recent posts by the last 30 days, you don't really care they're organized by performance, you just want to see the ones that have posted immediately, go change the sort to posted date. So you pretty much have 3 ways to sort the videos. They're all going to be the same, last 30 or 60 days from your watch list, not including brand deals, but you can kind of order the list to favor small, big, or recent, depending on what you like. Now, all you have to do from here to get a collection of winning ideas that have already been validated in your niche is just watch the videos one by one. You can watch 10, 50, 100, however many in a batch that you want to do at one time. Typically, I like to do maybe 25 to 50 at a given time. Now, this right here, what you're looking at is pure signal, no noise for the tech and AI niche that I've curated over the last couple months. Because every single video you watch here will be a validated winner in your niche. You don't have to look at anything unrelated, anything weak or poor performing. It's all right here, cream of the crop. Now, as I'm watching the individual videos, what I then do is I extract out 7 core variables from each video. And I just write a couple words for each of these. The 7 core variables are the following: topic, which is just a one-liner describing the video; angle, which is a short summary framing the meat or facts or takes, really like what makes up the video. So if topic is a one-liner, the angle are a couple sentences describing the thing that was covered in the video. 3 is the hook format, and that's made up of the spoken hook, what is actually said, as well as any notes on the visual hook that is shown. 4 is the story format or style. This is the way the story flows and how it's written. 5 is the visual format. So that's the layout of the visuals. Is it green screen, split screen, full screen? Like, how are the visuals actually laid out? 6 is the visuals themselves. Are there specific visuals that really catch your eye? Maybe it's a 3D render or some AI generated thing or some AI B-roll where the background is really cool. And then 7 is audio, the music, the sound effects, really like the whole audio vibe of the piece. And I'm just jotting down a couple of words here and there. If I have a format that I know the frame for, I'll write it down. If I don't, I'll just describe it. Now, what this allows me to do is that I can map the components that make up the winning video. Because when you don't know what you're doing, when you watch a video, it's hard to know why you liked it or why it was interesting. If you break it into these 7 components, you can start to understand what went into making up the video that was interesting or good. What this does is it starts to build a superset of options for each variable. So for example, let's say I watched 25 videos about tech and AI, and these were the best 25 from the last 2 months, ranked by views. I went one by one by one. Now, as I zoomed out at my paper and I see the 7 variables for each of the 25, I can start to recognize, oh, for visual formats, there are only 5 different visual formats that show up across the best videos. And those were green screen, faceless, split screen, full screen A-roll, and YAP, for example. There's about 40 different types of visual formats. We'll have a doc on Sandcastles breaking those down, but let's just say those 5 were what I saw over and over. This then becomes my possible set of formats that I can choose from when I make my own videos. So if I'm lost trying to figure out what videos will work in tech, I now see those 5 visual formats work over and over. I should pick one of those to start with on my own version. And this is super important. The best way to figure out how to make your videos work is to find an existing video that worked, look at the 7 variables, and try to figure out which variables to keep the same and which variables to change. This is kind of like the scientific method approach for content, and it makes it so much easier for beginners when you simplify it in these terms. And so when I go to make a video, I look at the top of my list and I see this first topic that I've extracted, and I say, okay, if I'm gonna make my version, maybe I keep the topic and the angle and the hook the exact same as the reference, but I completely change the way the story's told, the visual format that I lay the visuals out, and the actual visuals that I'm using. So I keep some the same and I make some different, and now I've got a new version. Or maybe I do the flip. I keep the hook and the story and the visuals and the audio the same, but I pick a new topic with a new angle. And so now I've got their format and execution, but my own topic and angle. See, it's a new combination. This idea phase, this research process, is all about figuring out which variables worked in your niche, getting that superset clear, and then knowing which Lego options you have to build your own stack. Now, if you want, I will make another video, much slower, where I'm literally clicking through sandcastles and doing this process idea by idea by idea and walking through how I'm deciding which to remix. I can make that for another video. That'll be a full long tutorial, so I can't include it here. If you want that, just comment something like, give me the idea sauce chef, with the little chef emoji with the chef hat. Just put that in the comments and I'll know exactly what to do. Now I'm telling you, if you spend just a single hour per week running this validated idea mining exercise that I just walked through, you walk away with dozens of topics, angles, hooks, and formats that are proven to work in your niche. And then you can pick and choose how you stack them up to build your own signature style. So step one in the workflow, remember we're going through the 5-step workflow, we're still in ideas. Step one is to just run this process once per week. Now, if you want to fully systematize this and get yourself completely out of it like I did, you can hire someone to run the process that I just went through. You could send them this video, train them up on it, and then they do the idea mining process for you. The beauty of sandcastles is that the person you hire doesn't need access to your Instagram to see your algorithm scrolling history. They can just jump on sandcastles and build the watch list the exact same way you do. So it'll either take you 1 hour per week or someone else you hire 1 hour per week, but we've just reduced your ideation time down from 5 to 10 hours of scrolling per week down to 1. Now, I mentioned before those 2 other paths for coming up with ideas. One of them was brainstorming originals, and the other was looking at other content mediums outside of your home base. For the originals, when you do come up with an original idea that you didn't see anywhere else, just jot that down on a note and just capture it as they come. Most people are not going to be able to come up with a bunch of original ideas every single day, and so you don't want to build a system that relies on that raw innovation every single time. When you do come up with an original, what makes it challenging is that you're going to have to figure out what all of those 7 variables are. When you find an outlier, you can decide to hold some the same and just change a few. But with an original, you got to build the full stack on your own without having that validation. That's why original ideas are so much harder to make. For the other content platforms outside of your home base, if you want to systematize this as well, you could schedule intentional scroll time for 20 to 30 minutes per week, or you could use a product like ChatGPT Pulse. I also like Feedly, which is kind of like an aggregator of different blogs and newsletters. So you could structure those kind of aggregation systems to minimize the amount of time you're scrolling on all of those surfaces. But just to frame this, here's how I think about ideation. The goal is to make your ideation process like Grey Goose vodka. You want it to be 4 times distilled. The raw social feeds like YouTube or X, those are completely unfiltered. You're getting some algorithmic direction, but you're also getting a bunch of random stuff. So that's like the base, least filtered way. Email newsletters give you 1 layer of filtering because the people writing the newsletters are trying to look at the social feeds and pick out the best stories, so that helps a little bit. Now, content creators in your niche are going to be a 2nd layer of filtering because they're reading the email newsletters and other aggregation sources, and they're only making videos on the best of the best, right? So that's 2 layers of filtering. Sandcastles with your watch list is providing a 3rd layer of filtering because now you're not looking at all content creators, you're looking at only content creators that you've hand selected in your watch list. Then when you filter the videos feed in Sandcastles, that's a 4th layer of filtering because now you're not just looking at the videos from the creators you've chosen, you're only looking at the best videos from the creators you've chosen. So when you come across an idea in Sandcastles that's at the top of the videos feed in the process we just went through, that's 4 times distilled. And that is how you minimize noise and maximize signal in the ideation process. All right, so at the end of step 1, you should have a Google Doc that has all of your shortlisted ideas. And for each of those ideas, you've broken down in 7 bullets, the core 7 elements or components that you've extracted. You don't have to go crazy, just jotting down a few words or phrases here and there so that you know what the elements were so that you can zoom out and see the patterns. Now, when it comes time to make your next video, you're gonna pick the best idea on the top of that list. If you have anything time sensitive, you can prioritize that. But if you don't, you just pick the one that you're most excited about. But as I've already mentioned, you're not just gonna straight copy the topic, the script, the hook, the angle, word for word, because that would be corny and unoriginal. So this is where step 2 comes in, which is the research. Now, the goal with the research step is to try to find some unique take or interesting angle that can help make your version of the idea a little bit more unique to you. Typically, what makes someone's video original when they're holding the topic constant is by changing the angle, the actual meat or facts or take in the video. Now, the traditional non-systematized way to approach research is then spending another 30 to 60 minutes deep diving and learning everything you can about the topic so that you can try to build your own take. Again, that is a lot of time. Some people are already 2 hours in the holster on this idea and they haven't even started scripting yet. But here is the systematized based approach that I use for research to get through this piece a lot faster. In step 1, when I was doing the idea and I was writing down those 7 pieces, I'm watching the video for 60 seconds one time through. Now the goal, as we talked about, is when you're watching the video, you're trying to extract those original components. But now that I'm in the research phase, I'm gonna go back to that idea and I'm gonna ask myself 3 questions, trying to find a new angle that the original creator has missed. The first question is, what did I find interesting about the original video that I wish the creator talked about more? The second question would be, what unanswered questions do I have after watching the original video? And the third question I ask myself is, what unanswered questions would a beginner have after watching that original video? Now, my goal is to find some additional information, something the creator missed that I can use to frame the idea in a different way. Sometimes, if you're making content on a topic you already have a lot of knowledge about, you don't actually need to go do additional research, right? Because just asking those 3 questions might pop an insight or a fact, something you pull from your own experience, and that becomes your new angle. Boom, research done. But if you don't have experience or original context on the topic, then you're gonna have to kick into this research phase to try to find a new perspective. Now for me, what happens when I'm in this mode, I just don't have the knowledge or perspective on the topic, I'm gonna go to ChatGPT and or YouTube to try to close this research gap as quickly as possible. First, I start with ChatGPT, and when I get there, I use this prompt every single time. I wanna make a video about X topic. Can you build a report summarizing what is going on, breaking down the most interesting aspects that will induce max shock, and sharing a super contrarian take on the implication? Assume I know nothing about the topic, but I wanna know 99% after reading your report. All I've watched so far is this video, and then I'll put the link to the original reference in there. Now, this is really important. The goal here is not to do deep research and spend 20 minutes learning every nook and cranny about this topic. That is procrastination. All you need is a short Cliff Notes summary to try to find an interesting piece that the original creator missed that you can frame your video around. Typically, you can close the gap on this in just 2 to 3 minutes with ChatGPT. Again, if you want to systematize this even further, you can build a ChatGPT project that acts like a template where you paste those instructions in as the system instructions, and then all you have to do is write in the topic, paste the link, and it will generate the report right away. Now, sometimes if ChatGPT isn't enough, or it's just like a really complex thing where I need a visual to explain, I will go to YouTube to try to close this gap on the research. But I know that if I go to YouTube, the search is not very optimized, I'm gonna end up in a rabbit hole and I'm gonna waste a bunch of time. So I try not to do that unless I really have to. Now, all you're really looking for at this research stage are 1 to 2 non-obvious interesting facts and maybe 1 contrarian take that the original post didn't have. If you have a unique perspective on what the story means, write it down. If you have a unique take or angle, write that down. Typically, shocking and non-obvious truths that you find that you haven't heard before is usually all you need to make the angle compelling. Now, at this point, you should have spent 5, maybe 10 minutes, and you'll have 3 to 5 sentences written down next to the angle, right? You've got those 7 bullets. Next to angle, you've got 3 to 5 sentences featuring a breakdown of the facts or takes that you found that you think are most interesting. Now, the AI in the script writing step will take care of the rest, and I'm gonna go through that in a second. So you really don't need to polish it much beyond this. Again, you can go longer on this research step if you want to, but you're not gonna have to once you see the rest of the workflow. And it's all about deciding where to spend your time. Now for me, I have somebody on my team that does everything we've walked through so far for me. He runs through sandcastles a couple times a week. He distills the best ideas. He goes through this research flow in ChatGPT and YouTube to close the gap. And then we have a call where he pitches me the ideas one by one and asks me if we should make them or not. This is what true content systemization looks like. So if you've been following along, I've reduced my personal time involvement in this flow to 0. The ideas and the research, I don't do them. I have someone else doing that for me, following the process I just walked through. For the guy on my team that does this, I call this role a content operator. This person would handle all of the front-end ideation, the research, and then ultimately pitch it to you, frame it, package it up, so you can decide which ideas to make. Now, if you don't have somebody on your team that can do this, or you don't have the resources for it yet, that's totally fine. You don't need to have a content operator, but this is what full systematization would look like. And that's why I broke down this whole process step by step so that you could do it for yourself if you don't have a content operator. So far, the ideation should have taken you 1 hour per week, and you can do that in a batch. And then the research should take 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 10 max per video if you're really dialing it in with ChatGPT. Okay, now we're moving into step 3 in the workflow, and this is the script writing. Coming to this step, you should have your idea shortlist, and each idea, you should have those 7 bullets. And for the angle, you should have the 3 to 5 sentences that you wrote down from the research, specifically what's most interesting or non-obvious to you about the topic that you want to include. And this can be bullets or sentences, just write it clearly in a kind of logical way. It doesn't have to be in a certain format. Now here's where I lean on AI a lot for this workflow, but I also have a human review in the loop at the end. I've spent a long time trying to build a script writing flow with AI. If you followed this channel, you know I have some of the deepest stuff on script writing when it comes to short form and long form content. I'm so deep on this, and I've spent so many hours trying to build this fully automated AI workflow. But the truth is, what I found is that even the most dialed ChatGPT or Claude project just doesn't quite get there with respect to the consistency that I want. And if it does nail the flow and the format, it doesn't sound like me. And so there's always manual intervention required. But I will say, the latest version of scripting we have in Sandcastles is the best AI-generated scripting that I've ever seen. It's the best in the world. And the reason Sandcastles works so well, better than ChatGPT and Claude, even though it's built on top of those, is that it doesn't try to one-shot the script. And this is a really critical thing that we figured out. There's a feature in Sandcastles called the Vault, which approaches content script writing in a different way than any other platform in the world. We kind of pioneered this. The Vault allows you to save components of outlier videos, those components that we extracted in step 1 with the ideas. And these components then become templates that you can use when you're writing new scripts. As of this recording, the first 2 components that you can actually save as templates in the Vault are hooks and styles. Now, hooks are obviously hooks. It's the first few lines spoken in the video. Styles are a combination of the writing style, so the rhythm, the tone, the pacing, the flow, like the way it's written, as well as the storytelling structure, the actual story flow from section 1, 2, 3, and how the points go together. We combine those 2 things, the style and flow, into one thing called the style. And so the full workflow for how you do this ideation and use the Vault is the following. You find an idea in the videos tab, you start extracting out those 7 variables. Again, as a reminder, topic, angle, hook, style, visual format, visuals, and audio. Those are the 7 variables. 2 of those, hook and style, can be saved into Sandcastles automatically. And so what you do is if you come across a video and you really like the way it's hooked, you get hooked, or you like the flow and structure of the story, all you have to do is click on that video, get to the idea detail page, click that button that says save to Vault, and then you can save the hook and/or style. All you have to do is name it, and for the hook, you specify the amount of lines in the transcript that you want to grab as the hook. Now, what happens next is pretty magical. When you go to the Vault tab, you can see that hook and style that you just saved. Now, the hook, as you can see on the right, shows up at the bottom as the original word-for-word hook from the transcript, but we've also automatically translated it into a Mad Lib format. That's what you see on the top. We've substituted all of the core words, nouns, emotions, verbs, adjectives into variables that turn this into a template that can be used for other videos. If for whatever reason the transcript grab or the Mad Lib translation wasn't perfect, you just hit the pencil icon and you can edit it super quickly. This becomes a template that you can use over and over. Now on the style side, we do something similar. It's even easier. We take the entire transcript and we save that as a style, which really can be applied as a lens to any script. So it'll make the script sound like the writing style from the reference, as well as flow in a story structure in the same way. And I'm gonna show you all this in action in a minute, but I just want to explain how the Vault works and why it's so powerful at improving the AI scripting flow. The cool part with the Vault is you can also manually add in your own hooks or your own style. So if you have a database of hooks and you don't want to go find a bunch of references in the videos tab, you can just take that database, save it as manual hooks, and then you've got that in the Vault. Same thing with styles. If you have transcripts you've already written, save that in, and then that becomes a style preset that you can use. But here's where it really comes into play. Let me show you the scripting. When you want to script a new video, and this is step 3, you go to the scripts tab, you press new script, and you get kicked into the flow. The first step, of course, is to add your prompt. This is where you describe what script you want to write. Now, Sandcastles does not require you to write a novel. All you really need is like 3 to 6 sentences. And what I recommend is just pasting in the topic and the angle that you wrote from steps 1 and 2. You've already got that on your paper. You don't really even need to format it. Just paste that into the prompt and press go. Sandcastles will then generate a full research report based on the prompt you gave it. Now, this report is going to drive the meat of what's in the script, the actual body of the script. So you don't have to read it word for word, but you do want to scroll quickly and just glance through to make sure it's including the facts and takes that you want it to. The sources that are used to drive that script are included in that carousel at the top. But if you want to change anything, delete anything, add anything, you just press the pencil and then you can add that in. Once you're good with the report, you press next. And here's where the Vault pieces really come in. Step 3 in the workflow is the hook. And immediately you'll see that all of the hook templates you've saved in the Vault, as well as a bunch that we include by default in Sandcastles, are there in that carousel. If you click on one, it will generate 2 new hooks in the exact format as the template, but referring to the new topic that you're talking about for this script. And this is how we keep the exact hook structure consistently over and over, but give you the flexibility to use different hooks and generate different options. You can click the same Mad Lib a bunch of times to generate new pairs. You can also pick a bunch of different ones, and you can basically build a set of 10, 12, 15 hook options in one spot to pick the best one. This is the fastest way to create new hooks that are in consistently validated formats without having to write them by hand. Now, once you pick a hook you like, you can move to the next step, and similarly, this is where we use the styles. But it's even easier because the styles are listed as template cards, and you just click one and go. This will apply like a lens or a filter on top of the writing so that the style and flow works to match the example. Now, once you click go on the style, the script will automatically start writing. It'll use the prompt you gave, the body of it will include based on the research report, it'll use the hook that you've generated, and the style. This is how you modularly use components that were validated to get the script to sound way better on the first rip. What we found is that this flow results in the most dialed first generation short form script in the world. Now, of course, the script writing process does not end here because typically I will spend 5 to 10 minutes cleaning this up by hand. The goal is to get this process to be automatic and hands-free every single time. And to be honest, in certain niches with certain templates, you can probably get there without touching it. For me, since I'm a perfectionist, I still like coming in and tweaking a couple words here and there. To solve for this in Sandcastles, the script editor literally works like a Google Doc. You can read it, make adjustments, it'll save automatically. You could highlight sections and then use the prompt below that would just apply the edits to the highlighted piece and leave everything else alone. If you want to apply edits to the whole thing, highlight nothing and write those. You can change the length, you can swap the hooks, you can swap the facts, you can look and review the previous versions to see the diff mode, to see what's changed. We've really built every piece of functionality you would want in the script writing experience in here, even though the first generation is good 95% of the way out of the box. This AI plus human combo, using the AI and preset template hooks and styles, plus my own manual editing to go the last mile, is my favorite workflow right now for script writing for short form content. Typically, this entire flow for the scripting takes about 5 to 10 minutes per script. And again, if you want to go full systemization, you could of course have your content operator do this as well. All right, step 4 is the recording. Now today, I'm not actually using any AI tools in my recording process. I might look robotic, but hopefully you can tell by these hands, I'm a human. And I'm not using AI in the recording because the cost-benefit analysis doesn't really make sense for me. Despite not using a teleprompter and still reading my scripts one line at a time, the whole recording process for a short-form video only takes me like 10 minutes. But the alternative, using an AI avatar with HeyGen and a professional voice clone with 11 Labs, would only save me those 10 minutes, but the cost would be me having a much more robotic, monotone delivery in my videos. Now, I know several creators that are fully AI generated when it comes to short-form, and it works really well. They don't even log into their Instagram. They have an editor somewhere, that editor has access to their AI avatar and literally just prints videos for them saying the script that they type in. Varun Maya, Rowan Chung, Nick Sarev, they all do that, and they're crushing when it comes to views in the tech and AI niche. But personally, I haven't been able to get this AI avatar, AI voice workflow working in a way that makes me feel like I'm still delivering at the quality and trust that people have known to expect. I will say a huge pro of figuring out AI automation is that it allows someone like your content operator to actually do the scripting and recording for you without you needing to log in. So today, I'm kind of a bottleneck in the human process. If I have a hoarse voice or my eyes are swollen, I then can't record, and that slows everything down. But with the AI avatar stack, you don't really have that problem. You can always have the exact avatar delivery that you expect. So for beginners, I don't recommend offloading the full recording process to an AI avatar. It's a lot to take on before you have all the rest of the variables dialed. But as you get better, if you really don't like this recording process and you want to save 10 minutes per rep, this is something you can look to include. All right, step 5, the final step in the workflow is the editing. And before we get into the editing, let's just recap how much time we've saved in the workflow thus far by using this kind of like AI plus human system that I've walked through. If you're going fully manual without a content operator, you are currently at 1 hour per week on the ideation, 3 to 5, 10 minutes max on the research, 10 minutes max on the script writing, and then 10 minutes on the recording. So this is about 30 minutes total per rep before the editing, not counting the ideation, which is a lot of hours saved from how you were probably doing it before if you were manually doing everything. If you have a content operator and you're still recording manually, then the only time you're gonna have to spend per rep is 10 minutes on the recording. If you have a content operator and you're using the AI avatar, so far you've spent 0 minutes in this process at all. And this is really what true systematization looks like. Now, when it comes to editing, this is the final frontier. I predict we're gonna have lots of people that have systematized this whole workflow up to the editing, but they're still gonna need a human in the loop to do that last piece. Because there is not a great AI tool stack or workflow to do the editing automatic in the same way as the other things I've talked about. Now, there's a lot of startups trying to crack this, and there's a lot of pretty average automated editing tools, but none of it will cut above the quality line that I know you think you need. So if you're trying to go full workflow optimization, you've really got two paths on the editing. Path one is to edit it manually yourself if you have no resources but just time, but go with something lower fi. Green screen, yap, fewer cuts, more value, more kind of like longer delivery to minimize the time in. These types of edits tend to work better on TikTok over Instagram, especially if you're in a high value education niche. If you do this, each edit will probably take you 30 to 60 minutes. And obviously you can scale that time up with more quality if you want all the whiz bangs and flashes. Path two is to hire a human editor in the loop to do the editing for you. The harsh truth and reality is this: no content system is designed so that the creator is editing manually themselves. That's just not how you save the most time. And I totally empathize that everybody watching this is at a different stage. You may not have the resources to have an editor, you may have tried but have had to churn out. The reality is you're gonna pay for the editing one way or the other. You're either gonna pay with time or you're gonna pay with money to buy back your time. So once you have the resources to buy back your time, you should do it, because editing is the thing that you can replace and save the biggest chunk the quickest. Now, if you wanna hire my editing team that does these YouTube videos and also every single one of my shorts, responsible for like billions of views on short form, I've got a link below where you can apply and I'll connect you with that exact team. But even if you don't, the last mile of your content workflow to really extract yourself out is gonna be figuring out how to delegate away the editing from you. Now, as soon as there is an editing workflow that's feasible with AI, I will be the first one on this channel to tell you what it is, to show you, etc. But I don't expect that to come for a while. Now, one small tip I will say in terms of working with an editor to help empower them with AI. There are, of course, tons of AI image and video tools that can be really helpful for generating visuals used in your edits much faster. Things like Nano Banana, Veo 3, Kling 2.1, Midjourney, like these are all the staple tools for AI image and video. My pro tip for you and what we do on our team is have a virtual credit card that you give to each editor that allows them to go freely use and try any of the AI tool subscriptions that they want. This gives them the freedom to experiment and also builds into the workflow Veo 3, Midjourney, Kling, all these tools that improve the quality of your edits and the speed that they can do it. So it's not an automation workflow with respect to AI replacing them, but it is turning your human editors into 10x machines. So there you have it. This is the latest and greatest, as of today, my best 5-step workflow for systematizing content with AI tools and different human processes to speed it up. I went from spending 4 to 6 hours, sometimes 8 hours per rep, to spending only 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes max each rep myself. And then I have a team that's helping to fill the rest of the gaps. Again, everybody watching this is going to be in a different financial position, a different place in the journey. You may not have room for the editor, you may not have room for the content operator. Just know this, I personally spent the first 18 months, the first 300 reps editing myself. I did all of this myself manually, and then I edited 6 to 8 hours. I couldn't free myself up to really fulfill my potential until I was able to hire myself out of the editing and move forward from there. So as soon as you have the funds to be able to hire an editor and ultimately a content operator, I would do it. But even in the meantime, using tools like Sandcastles and ChatGPT will save you significant time, even if you're doing the manual editing yourself. As always, guys, I'm trying to bring the absolute best, the sauce when it comes to content, right? I'm trying to be the guy for short form video and long form video that you look to that just gives so much value you can't ignore the video. If that's you, if you're a business owner and you're trying to use content to grow, you know what to do. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, tell me what you want to see next. And of course, I mention this in every video, I've got a free community for entrepreneurs and business owners. It's called Wavy World. I've got 65 free trainings like this that are all organized for you. Everything from YouTube, short form, ideas, algorithms, editing, all types of tutorials is in there. And we have over 37,000 entrepreneurs that are all working together to improve their own content. So if you want a peer group, if you want more free training, if you want more free access, definitely make sure to join. It's called Wavy World. I've got a free invite link for you in the description. All right, we will see you guys on the next one. Peace.